December 7th, 1941. 6 a.m. Pearl Harbor, Oahu, Hawaii. The tropical sun edges over the horizon, casting a golden haze across the still waters of the bay. Palm fronds rustle faintly in the trade winds, carrying the salty tang of the Pacific. Sailors aboard the USS Arizona stir in their bunks, the low hum of shipboard life, clanging mess trays, muffled laughter from the galley, echoing through the steel hull. A young ensign sips coffee on deck, gazing at the row of mighty battleships lined up like sentinels, Oklahoma, West Virginia, Nevada, all gleaming under the morning light. The air feels lazy, peaceful, a Sunday reprieve from drills and duties. Imagine yourself there, the warmth on your skin, the distant call of seabirds piercing the quiet. No alarms blare yet. No one suspects the shadows gathering beyond the waves. In the wardroom, officers trade stories of home, while below, machinists tinker with valves and gauges, the rhythmic throb of engines, a comforting heartbeat. Ford Island's airstrip lies dormant, P-40 Warhawks parked in neat rows, their pilots still asleep in barracks. The harbor's defenses, anti-aircraft guns silent, radar operators dismissing faint blips as glitches, stand idle, oblivious. But far to the north, unseen, a storm brews. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto's task force, 6 carriers strong, Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, has sliced through the ocean for days, radio silence cloaking their advance. Pilots in cockpits check instruments, hearts pounding beneath flight suits. The first wave, 183 aircraft, Mitsubishi A6M Zeros, sleek and deadly, Nakajima B5N torpedo bombers loaded for devastation. They lift off at 6 a.m. sharp, engines roaring to life, propellers slicing the dawn. As the sun climbs higher, a faint drone builds on the horizon, like thunder from a clear sky. One sailor pauses, cup in hand, squinting northward. What is that sound? It's growing louder, insistent, and then the first shapes appear, dark specks against the blue, diving like hawks. The illusion shatters.
7:48 a.m. The first Japanese planes slice through the morning haze over Oahu. You hear it before you see it, a low, ominous growl swelling into a deafening roar. Torpedo bombers skim the waves at mast height, their Nakajima B5N Kates hugging the water so closely that spray kicks up behind them. Led by Commander Mitsuo Fuchida, the strike leader, they fan out toward Battleship Row, where the mighty fleet lies vulnerable. Nevada alone at the northern end, then Arizona with repair ship Vestal alongside. Tennessee and West Virginia paired. Maryland and Oklahoma side by side, California at the southern end. The first torpedoes drop. Sleek, deadly Type 91s streak through the shallow harbor waters, specially modified for the attack. One slams into the USS Oklahoma's port side, then another and another. The great battleship lists violently, men scrambling across tilting decks as water floods compartments. Screams pierce the air as sailors leap into the oil-slicked bay. High above, Aichi D3A Vals dive bombers scream downward in near vertical plunges, their 550-pound bombs whistling through the sky. They target Ford Island's hangars and Wheeler Field's parked P-40s and P-36s. Explosions bloom across the airfields, flames engulf aircraft lined wingtip to wingtip, pilots racing barefoot from barracks to reach their machines too late. On the Arizona, a young gunner spots the diving planes. "Enemy aircraft," he shouts, but the general quarters alarm is drowned by the thunder.
A Vow releases its bomb. It strikes near the forward turrets, then another crashes into the deck. The third finds the forward magazine. A blinding flash, a colossal detonation rips through the battleship. The forward turrets lift skyward, then collapse as the ship splits open. Flames and black smoke erupt in a mushroom of fire and debris, hurling men and steel hundreds of feet. The Arizona shudders, her back broken, and begins to sink rapidly, trapping over 1,000 souls below decks. Chaos erupts across the harbor. Anti-aircraft guns finally bark to life. Too late, too few. Sailors man 5-inch mounts, 50-caliber machine guns, anything they can reach. Tracers arc upward, but the Japanese pilots weave through the fire with chilling precision. The first wave has barely begun, and already the Pacific Fleet bleeds.
8:10 a.m. The harbor has become a cauldron of fire and oil. Thick black smoke coils skyward from the Arizona's shattered hulk, a funeral pyre visible for miles. The explosion's shock wave still ripples across the water, flinging debris like shrapnel. Men cling to floating wreckage, coughing through oil that coats their lungs, their skin, their eyes. Some swim toward Ford Island, others drift helplessly toward the burning fuel spreading across the surface. Look at the West Virginia. 7 torpedoes have torn her open below the waterline. She settles slowly, guns still firing defiantly upward, tracers stitching the sky. Sailors haul wounded shipmates across the listing deck, their white uniforms now black with fuel oil. One young seaman, barely 18, cradles a dying comrade, whispering promises of home as the man's breathing fades. Oklahoma capsizes completely now. She rolls over with terrifying slowness, her massive hull turning turtle, trapping hundreds inside the dark, flooding maze of compartments. Hammering echoes faintly from within, desperate men beating on bulkheads, begging for rescue that may never come. Divers will later hear those sounds in nightmares. On the Nevada, Captain Francis W. Scanland orders engines ahead full. She begins to move, slowly, majestically, slipping her moorings under fire, aiming for the open sea. But Japanese planes swarm her, bombs pounding the deck. She runs aground on a sandbar, burning but not sunk, her guns still speaking. The second wave approaches. Fuchida signals from his Kate, more destruction to come. Yet already the impossible has happened. The invincible fleet lies crippled, and the Americans are starting to fight back. 8:54 a.m. The second wave arrives. 171 aircraft, relentless, hungry for more. You feel the air thicken with the scream of diving Vows and the guttural roar of Zeros strafing anything that moves. Anti-aircraft fire now lashes upward in earnest, 5-inch shells bursting in black puffs, .50 caliber machine guns chattering from every deck and rooftop. Tracers crisscross the sky like deadly fireworks. A few American fighters finally claw into the air, a handful of P-40 Warhawks from Halawaya and Wheeler, piloted by men like Lieutenants George Welch and Kenneth Taylor, who had raced to their planes through strafing runs. They tangle with the attackers, guns blazing, claiming kills amid the chaos. The Nevada, the only battleship to get underway, steams toward the channel entrance, her silhouette majestic even as bombs hammer her. She takes hit after hit, decks ablaze, but her crew refuses to let her sink in the harbor where she could block the exit. She beaches at Hospital Point, a burning monument to courage. More Japanese planes swarm Battleship Row. Bombs plunge into the California, flooding her slowly. Maryland takes punishment but stays afloat. Everywhere the human cost mounts. Sailors burned, blinded by oil fires, dragging the wounded through corridors that fill with water. Yet acts of heroism shine through the horror. Men swimming back to their ships under fire, others manning guns with bloodied hands.
The Japanese press their attack, but American resistance stiffens. The skies are no longer theirs alone. Still, the toll rises, and the worst is yet to reveal itself. 9:45 a.m. The second wave ebbs, leaving the harbor in smoldering ruin. Smoke hangs so thick it blots the sun to a dull orange disk. The air reeks of burning oil, cordite, and scorched metal. Fires rage unchecked across Battleship Row, flames leaping from deck to deck, licking up superstructures. The Arizona is gone, reduced to a twisted skeleton, her forward turrets jutting from the water like broken fingers. Only the mast and funnel remain above the surface, a silent grave marker for 1,177 souls. West Virginia and Tennessee stand side by side in the Inferno, their guns silent now, hulls riddled, decks awash with the dead and dying. Rescue boats dart through the flaming water, pulling men from the black slick, their faces streaked with oil and tears. Nevada lies beached at Hospital Point, her once proud form grounded to prevent total loss, smoke pouring from every wound. She had almost made the open sea. Almost. Everywhere the human toll reveals itself. Sailors drag the wounded ashore on stretchers. Medics work frantically in makeshift stations. Bodies float among the debris, some still burning. The harbor is a graveyard of steel and men. Yet in the silence that follows the last Japanese plane's departure, a new sound rises, the low rumble of resolve. Radios crackle with urgent messages to Washington. The disbelief gives way to something colder, harder. The sleeping giant has been struck, and it is awakening. 10 a.m. The last Japanese planes vanish into the northern horizon, leaving behind a harbor transformed into a scene of apocalyptic ruin. The water is black with oil, streaked with fire, dotted with the floating dead and the desperate living. Rescue launches cut through the slick, horns wailing, crews pulling men from the Inferno. The Arizona's wreck leaks fuel in slow, oily tears, bubbles rising from the depths where over 1,000 men remain entombed. Her superstructure leans, twisted steel glowing red in places, the mast standing like a broken sentinel. The aftermath stretches across the harbor. California half submerged, Oklahoma overturned, West Virginia and Tennessee scarred but defiant. Over 2,400 American lives lost, 8 battleships damaged or sunk, nearly 200 aircraft destroyed on the ground. Yet the carriers, Enterprise, Lexington, Saratoga, were at sea. The fuel depots, repair yards, and submarines remained untouched. Yamamoto had struck a blow, but not the killing stroke he feared. In Washington, President Roosevelt receives the news, face hardening. By evening, the nation learns of the attack. Radio bulletins crackle across living rooms, factories, farms. Shock gives way to rage. A date which will live in infamy, he will declare tomorrow. Here, in the smoldering wake, the true turning point, a stunned people, united in purpose. The disbelief fades, the vulnerability is laid bare, and from the ashes of Pearl Harbor rises an unbreakable resolve. The war has come home. The giant stirs.